Let's now discuss tax remedies, chapter 14 of your book. So under the tax code, the powers and duties of the BIR, it includes assessment and collection of all national internal revenue taxes, fees, and charges. So with this, after a tax return has been filed, the BIR is authorized to examine the taxpayer and assess the correct amount of tax. Pero, in case na hindi naka-file si taxpayer ng income tax return or any tax returns, it does not prevent the BIR from examining the taxpayer. So, in that case, the assessment can be made the assessment of the BIR can be made based on the best evidence available in case na, yun nga, the taxpayer failed to provide the income tax return or any tax returns or information sa BIR, or if the BIR believes that such information or returns are false, so incomplete, erroneous. So in that way, the assessment of the BIR can be made through best evidence available. So when we say remedies, these are actions available to the BIR or the government in enforcing collection of the proper taxes. So ito yung mga courses of actions allowed by the law to implement the tax laws or enforce tax collection. And remedies also refer to actions available to the taxpayer. On the part of the taxpayer, these are the legal actions naman na the taxpayer can avail in order to defend himself or in case na entity yan itself against the lawful or enforcement of tax laws. So it is a means to check din kung may mga illegal na mga performances ng mga revenue officers in their duties or responsibilities. So these remedies also refer on the part of the taxpayer. Ito yung mga legal actions that he can avail to in case in seeking the relief from burden or oppressive effect of tax laws. Start first with the assessment. When we say assessment, it is the official action of an officer authorized by law in ascertaining the amount of tax due under the law from a taxpayer. So, ito yung pag-determine ng amounts due from a person obligated to make payment. So, assessment starts with the filing of tax return, payment of tax by the taxpayer, and then, yan yung tinatawag nating self-assessment, diba? In which the tax return is reported, filed by the taxpayer. So, after filing the return, so the commissioner or any representative of the commissioner may allow the examination of the taxpayer for assessment of proper tax liability. So, i-examine nila yung mga records or any data relevant sa pag-verify kung correct ba yung ginawang return or in case na hindi siya gumawa ng return para makakomply siya sa paggawa ng returns as well as pag-determine and then also collect the necessary tax liability. So first sa assessment process is the issuance of letter of authority. Yan talaga yung first step when the BIR wants to conduct audit. They must issue a letter of authority. When we say letter of authority, nakalagay din yan sa libro nyo, na this is the authority given to the appropriate revenue officer, RO, assigned to perform assessment function. So the LOA, the letter of authority, empowers or enables said revenue officer to examine the books of accounts and other accounting records of a taxpayer for the purpose of collecting the correct amount of tax. So, may dito yung, ito yung official document na nagbibigay ng authority sa isang RO, revenue officer, na i-examine niya, i-scrutinize niya yung mga books of accounts, other records, other accounting records ni taxpayer. So, this letter of authority, it commences the audit process and nag-inform kay taxpayer na siya ay under audit for possible deficiency tax assessment. If there is no LOA, okay, if there is no letter of authority provided to the taxpayer, then any assessment made by the BIR or the revenue officer is considered void. So any assessment is a nullity. And take note, kapag naka-receive ng LOA, the taxpayer can no longer modify, change, or amend any return statement or declaration. So that's LOA. The period covered by LOA is 1 year. So, before the practice of before kasi, yung mga ibang revenue officer is, when they issue LOA, naglalagay sila, let's say, 2023 and unverified prior years. Now, hindi na yan pwede ngayon. It is prohibited. So, kung magbibigay ka ng LOA, you must specify what particular year are you going to audit. Okay? And the persons authorized to issue LOA under national office is yung Commissioner of Internal Revenue. Under the jurisdiction naman ng regional office, yung mga ating regional director. Okay, so as mentioned kanina, once naka-issue na tayo ng LOA, any amendments on the part of the taxpayer is not allowed. Kasi generally, the taxpayer has the right to modify, change, or amend yung kanyang mga tax return, statement, or declaration within 3 years from the date of filing. Now, in case na may LOA presented to the taxpayer, amendment of return is not allowed anymore. So we also have this letter notice. Ano yung difference ng letter notice at yung letter of authority? Anyways, what is a letter notice? So, under the no contact audit approach, so kahit na hindi tayo nag-examine talaga ng tax in detail ng taxpayers' books and records, if the computerized or manual matching of sales and purchases or expenses appear to reveal discrepancies, the same shall be communicated through the issuance of a letter notice. So, itong letter notice, dito nakikita yung kung may mga discrepancy sa books and records ni taxpayer. So, once na meron tayong letter notice, kailangan i-notify natin yung taxpayer. Okay? So, letter notice is not an authority to conduct audit. So, kapag meron kang makitang discrepancies, then the letter notice must be converted or there must be an issuance of, in case na yung discrepancies natin is remained unsolved, then the revenue officer handling letter notice, the revenue officer that handles letter notice shall recommend the issuance of LOA para ma-replace natin yung letter notice. Kasi, yun nga, letter notice, hindi yan authority to conduct audit, but rather only yung LOA lang yung may authority na may makakapagbigay ng authority sa isang revenue officer to conduct audit. Okay? So, kailangan, due process demands that after an LN has served its purpose, so ano yung purpose na yan? To notify the taxpayer that a discrepancy is found based on the BIR's system, relief system, then the revenue officer should have properly secured a LOA before proceeding with the further examination and assessment of taxpayer. Okay? So, we're now sa tax audit or investigation. A revenue officer is allowed on 120 days from the date of receipt of the LOA to conduct the audit and submit required report of investigation. So, kapag meron na siyang right to conduct audit, kailangan 120 days from the date na na-receive niya yung LOA, gagawin niya na yung pag-investigate or yung pag-audit. And then, of course, submit the required report of investigation within the 120 days sa kanyang head office. So, in case naman na hindi siya makapag-submit, then if the RO is unable to submit yung required report of investigation, kailangan niyang i-surrender yung LOA for revalidation. Number of times a taxpayer may be audited. So general rule is that only once a year lang. Okay? They can only be subjected sa audit of a taxable year only once. Except if, kapag may mga fraud, irregularity, or mistakes, kapag kailangan mag-reinvestigate, there is verification sa pag-comply with withholding tax laws, verification sa capital gains tax liabilities, when the commissioner chooses to exercise his power to obtain information relative to the examination of other taxpayers. So, dito sa letter E, kung gusto ni CIR na i-exercise niya yung power niya to obtain more information in relation to that particular taxpayer. So, pwedeng more than once in a taxable year yung mangyayaring audit. Now, di ba, yung RO natin, meron siyang 120 days after receiving the LOA, pwede siyang mag-conduct ng audit for 120 days. On the part of the taxpayer, kapag na-receive niya yung LOA, meron siyang ma-receive na checklist ng documents na kailangan niyang isubmit sa BIR in connection with the audit. So, in case na hindi pa rin siya nag-submit after 10 days na na-receive niya yung checklist na yon, merong ibibigay sa kanya na tinatawag nating first notice. So, first notice will be issued to the taxpayer after 10 days from receipt ng checklist. So, kung hindi pa rin siya nag-comply, mabibigyan na naman siya ng tinatawag nating second and final notice. Yung second and final notice, after 10 days from the receipt of the first notice, still hindi pa rin nag-comply si taxpayer, yun, mabibigyan siya ng second, which is the final notice that will be sent to the taxpayer. Pero if hindi pa rin siya mag-comply, then may issue siya ng subpoena ducis tecum or SDT. After 10 days from the receipt of the written notice, the final notice, mai-issuean siya ng SDT. So, upon failure of taxpayer to submit documents to BIR within the period prescribed in the written notice, or kung nag-submit man siya pero incomplete, then meron ding may issue sa kanya na subpoena ducis tecum. Now, there is possibility na meron tayong criminal prosecution. There is a possibility na meron tayong criminal prosecution in case na si taxpayer hindi pa rin siya mag-comply sa subpoena ducis tecum. When we say subpoena ducis tecum or subpoena for production of evidence, so parang isosummon ka sa korte, okay? Para yung mga evidences and mga necessary documents will be provided to the court, okay? So, in that case, since hindi nagko-comply si taxpayer sa RO, dun na natin siya ipa-comply dun sa korte. And in case na ayaw niya pa rin mag-comply sa SDT, there is what we call criminal prosecution. Okay, so after na-receive na yung mga necessary documents, meron na tayong notice of discrepancy. Itong notice of discrepancy naman is mai-issue to sa taxpayer kung meron tayong makikita na mga deficiency tax or taxes during the course of the audit. So, the taxpayer shall be informed through a notice of discrepancy which aims to fully afford the taxpayer an opportunity to present and explain his side on the discrepancies found. So, dun sila mag-uusap para ma-explain ni taxpayer yung side niya sa discussion of discrepancy. The discussion of discrepancy shall in no case extend beyond 30 days from the receipt of the notice of discrepancy. So, during this time, during this discussion, si taxpayer meron siyang opportunity na i-explain niya anong nangyari and why is there a discrepancy found in the investigation, and magsasubmit din siya ng mga documents to support his arguments. So, failure on the part of the taxpayer to reconcile and failure on the part of the taxpayer to reconcile and present valid documentary support against the noted discrepancies will result in the issuance of a deficiency tax assessment, which is in the form of preliminary assessment notice within 10 days from the conclusion of the discussion. So, in case na, diba, still, diba, during the discussion of discrepancy, si taxpayer may opportunity siya na i-present niya yung kanyang point of view, then, in case na it is still found that the taxpayer is still liable for deficiency tax or taxes, or hindi niya na-address yung discrepancy by paying deficiency taxes or hindi siya nag-agree sa findings, then pwede na tayo mag-issue, the RO can now issue a deficiency tax assessment, which is in the form of PAN, Preliminary Assessment Notice, within 10 days from the conclusion of the discussion of discrepancy. Kung hindi, failure on the part of the RO, in case na hindi sila makakomply with that, then meron ding mga penalty on their part. So, issuance of PAN, okay? Diba, after na-determine na meron talagang deficiency tax or taxes si taxpayer, mag-issue na tayo ng preliminary assessment notice. So, that is a communication issued by the Regional Assessment Division or any other concerned BIR office informing a taxpayer who has been audited of the findings of the revenue officer following the review of this finding. So, ang laman ng PAN, Preliminary Assessment Notice, is that aside from it must be in writing, it shall show in detail the facts and the law, the rules, regulations, or jurisprudence on which the proposed assessment is based. So, otherwise, kung hindi yun nakalagay doon, then the assessment, the preliminary assessment notice is void. So, if the taxpayer disagrees with the findings stated in the PAN, then meron tayong remedy naman. So, he must respond within 15 days from the date of receipt of the PAN. Written reply na nagko-contest siya dun sa proposed assessment, otherwise, he shall be considered in default. So, failure to reply to PAN, the TP, the taxpayer is considered as default, and the BIR will issue a final letter of demand and final assessment notice. So, mandatory nature of service of preliminary assessment notice. So, yung issuance ng PAN is part of the due process which is required under RR number 18/2013. So, kung generally, you must issue PAN before FAN. Okay? Ano yung FAN? Final Assessment of Notice. In case na if you issue PAN to the taxpayer to inform him of the assessment made, that is due process requirement. Okay? Due process requirement yan in the issuance of a deficiency tax assessment. So, kung hindi mo mabigyan, hindi ka mag-issue ng PAN or hindi mo binigyan si taxpayer na mag-respond sa'yo within 15 days from receipt thereof, then this will be a violation of the due process right of the taxpayer. Pero meron naman tayong mga exceptions to that rule. Meaning, the PAN is not required in the following cases. So, pwedeng diretso na FAN. So, we have here, first is, if merong mathematical error. Letter B, kapag meron tayong discrepancy between tax withheld and the tax remitted by the withholding agent. Letter C, kapag yung taxpayer nag-claim niya as tax credit but what was actually carried over the next year. Letter D, when the excise tax due has not yet been paid. And letter E, kapag when the article locally purchased or imported by an exempt person has been sold, traded, or transferred to non-exempt person. So, transfer from exempt to non-exempt person. Now is the issuance of FAN and FLD. So, the formal letter of demand, notice of assessment or final assessment notice, and formal letter of demand, FLD. So, When we say FAN and FLD, this is a declaration of deficiency taxes issued to a taxpayer. So, this is issued to a taxpayer when kapag yung taxpayer failed to respond to the PAN within the prescribed period of time or whose reply to the PAN was found to be no merit. So, the contents, the FAN and formal letter of demand shall inform the taxpayer of this fact and that the report of investigation submitted by the revenue officer conducting the audit shall be given due course. So the contents shall state the facts, the law, rules and regulations, or jurisprudence on which the assessment is based. Otherwise, the FAN and the FLD, formal letter of demand, is void. As to the time of assessment, general rule within 3 years after the last day prescribed by law for filing or from the date of the filing the return. So the deadline or the actual date of filing, whichever is later. So yan yung general rule, meaning the return filed is not, the filed return is not fraudulent. Okay? Pero kapag false or fraudulent yung na-file na return or there is failure or omission to file the return, then the period of assessment natin is within 10 years from the discovery. So that's the time of assessment. On the part of the taxpayer, pwede naman siyang mag-file ng protest within 30 days from date of receipt of the FAN. From 30 days from the time na na-receive niya yung FAN, pwede siyang mag-protest administratively against the FLD at yung FAN. So, the taxpayer protesting an assessment may either file a written request for reconsideration or request for re-investigation. So, kapag reconsideration, it refers to a plea of reevaluation of an assessment on the basis of existing records. So, existing records siya, reconsideration. Pero kapag reinvestigation, the reinvestigation plea of reevaluation of an assessment on the basis of newly discovered or additional evidence that a taxpayer intends to present in the reinvestigation. So, it may also involve a question of fact or law or both. So, kapag reinvestigation, meron tayong isasubmit na mga bagong evidence. For request for investigation, the taxpayer shall submit all relevant supporting documents in support of his protest within 60 days from date of filing of his letter of protest. Otherwise, the assessment shall become final. So, when we say reinvestigation, meron tayong mga bagong mga evidence na isasubmit. Pero kapag reconsideration, wala nang bagong evidence or wala nang documents na isasubmit pa. When we say all relevant supporting documents in support of his protest, this refer to those documents necessary to support the legal and factual basis in disputing a tax assessment as determined by the taxpayer. So, itong 60 days, take note itong 60 days period for submission of relevant supporting documents shall only apply to reinvestigation. Kapag nag-request ka ng reinvestigation, hindi siya pwedeng i-apply itong 60-day rule sa request for reconsideration. Now, kapag sinabi natin the assessment shall become final, then the taxpayer cannot dispute anymore with regard sa assessment. So, hindi na siya pwedeng mag-dispute ng assessment by producing another set of documents and so on. Failure to file a protest. So, if failure to file a protest, then the assessment shall be considered final, executory, and demandable, and no request for either reinvestigation or reconsideration shall be granted. In case naman na hindi mag-a-agree si BIR with the protest, then a final decision on a disputed assessment will be issued where the taxpayer has the right to elevate the case to the Court of Tax Appeal. So this FDDA will be issued if the BIR does not agree with the protest. On the part of the taxpayer naman, meron naman siyang right to elevate the case to the CTA. So as to the actions by the commissioner or the duly authorized representative of the commissioner, within 180 days, the commissioner may either deny directly or indirectly the protest. So, kapag sinabing direct denial of protest, so in case of express denial by the commissioner with regards to the protest of the taxpayer, so the remedy of the taxpayer is to file an appeal with the CTA division within 30 days from the receipt of letter of denial. In case naman na indirect denial of protest, this happens when the CIR or his duly authorized representative fails to act on the taxpayer's protest within 180 days from date of submission. So, in that case, the protest may be considered denied. So, the taxpayer, remedy of the taxpayer, may file an appeal with CTA division within 30 days from the lapse of 180-day period. So, kapag nag-lapse kasi ng 180 days, then ang assumption dyan is indirect denial of protest. So, after 180 days, wala pa rin siyang na-receive na letter of denial. Si taxpayer wala pa rin na-receive na letter of denial. Then, the taxpayer can appeal with the CTA division within 30 days from the lapse of 180-day period. Or, await the final decision of the CIR or his duly authorized representative. Hintayin na niya yung decision ng CIR and then appeal such final decision to the CTA, the Court of Tax Appeals, within 30 days after the receipt of a copy of such decision. So, remedies for collection of delinquent taxes. This happens when the assessment becomes final, executory, and demandable. So, kapag meron ng final assessment made para sa pag-determine ng tax due, then pwede nang mag-collect si BIR. So, the prescriptive period, so meaning collection of the BIR must be made within this period. So, generally, within 5 years from issuance of FAN. So, kapag naka-issue na ng FAN, 5 years from that, kailangan si BIR nakapag-collect na siya. Or, if the return filed is fraudulent or no return was filed, then the prescriptive period for collection is 10 years from the discovery. So, yan yung ating prescriptive period for the remedy of collection. So, when we say fraudulent or no return, when we say fraudulent or false return, there is a substantial under-declaration of taxable sales, receipts, or income. So, under-declaration, substantial under-declaration means it exceeded 30% of that declared per return. So, substantial overstatement naman, it exceeded 30% of actual deductions, and recurrence of understatement of income or overstatement of deductions for more than one taxable year. So, in that case, in any of these cases, it will be assumed as prima facie evidence na false or fraudulent yung return ni taxpayer. So, the collections, we have different methods of collection. Meron tayong distraint of personal property, levy of real property, civil action, like, judicial proceedings like civil action and criminal action. So, the remedies para sa distraint and levy shall not be availed of where the amount of tax involved is not more than 100 pesos. So, kapag yung tax na hindi nabayaran is not more than 100 pesos, then we cannot avail the distraint and levy method of collection. And these remedies of the BIR are not mutually exclusive. So, meaning, yung distraint or yung levy, they may be availed even if merong judicial proceedings na action na na-file. So, in the same way, the distraint or levy of property will not preclude the filing of a civil or criminal action. So, let's start muna sa distraint. When we say distraint, yan yung para sa personal property. Whether intangible or tangible personal property, kinukuha seizure of personal property para ma-enforce yung payment of taxes. So, if the deficiency is not voluntarily paid, so ang nakuhang property, it may eventually be sold in a public sale. So, yan yung distraint. However, meron tayong two types of distraint actually. Meron tayong actual and constructive distraint. So, when we say actual distraint, yan yung sa libro nyo, personal property is physically seized by the BIR and offered for sale at public auction. The property is sold to the highest bidder and the proceeds of the sale are applied to the payment of tax due. In fact, meron tayong tinatawag na garnishment, particularly for the distraint of bank accounts. Sa constructive distraint naman, the person in possession of personal property is made to sign a receipt, undertaking that he will preserve the property and will not dispose of the property without the express authority of BIR. So, kapag actual distraint, meron talagang physical taking of the personal property. Sa constructive distraint, wala talagang pagkuha ng property. Hindi talaga kinuha ni BIR yung property. The person is just made to sign a receipt. So, sa-sign lang siya ng receipt na hindi niya yon i-dispose, ibenta, i-transfer yung property kung walang authority from the BIR. So, sa actual distraint, the taxpayer is already delinquent. Pero sa constructive distraint, yun nga, wala pa, there is no finding yet of a discrepancy, only that the taxpayer is retiring from any business subject to tax. He intends to leave the Philippines. He removes his property therefrom. He performs any act tending to obstruct the proceeding for collecting the tax due or which may be due for him. So, like for example, let's say, ibebenta na lang niya, ganun. So, in that case, hindi yun allowed. So, that is why merong hindi allowed as of, for the BIR, as for the authority from the BIR, hindi nila yun inallow kay taxpayer na gawin niya yun to obstruct the proceeding for collecting the tax due. So, that is why merong constructive distraint. Sa actual distraint, personal property taken is sold in order to satisfy the tax delinquency. So, binibenta to the highest bidder and the proceeds are applied sa pagbayad ng tax ni taxpayer. Sa constructive distraint naman, personal property is merely held as security to answer for any future tax delinquency. So, that's the difference between actual and constructive distraint. In continuation, the persons authorized to commence distraint proceedings is kung yung amount of delinquent tax involved is more than 1 million pesos, then the persons authorized to commence distraint proceedings is yung CIR. If yung amount of delinquent tax is 1 million or less, then pwede yung Revenue District Officer. Ito yung right of preemption, the release of distraint property upon payment prior to sale. So, right of preemption. If any time prior to the consummation of the sale, all proper charges are paid to the officer conducting the sale, the goods or effects distrained shall be restored to the owner. So, kung bago pa nabenta yung property, the taxpayer was able to pay the necessary tax, the interest, and other penalties, then the property will be restored to the owner. So, yan yung right of preemption. So, that's the discussion for distraint. Let us now proceed sa levy. So, levy on the real property. Sa levy naman, as provided in your book, it is the seizure by the government of real property. So, real properties naman ito, unlike sa distraint, which is personal property. So, levy is the seizure by the government of real properties and interest in or rights to such properties in order to enforce the payment of tax. Right of redemption. For a period of 1 year from the sale date, the property may be redeemed by the taxpayer. So, let's say for example, yung real property, binenta yun. So, for a period of 1 year from the sale date, the property may be redeemed by the taxpayer. If kaya niyang bilhin, like mababayaran niya yung tax and any other penalties, then it can be redeemed by the taxpayer. The real property can be redeemed by the taxpayer. Failure to redeem the property, a final deed of sale is executed in favor of the buyer. So, levy on real property, kukunin ni government yung real property ni taxpayer kasi hindi nakabayad ng tax si taxpayer, and then it will be sold. So, ibebenta siya to the highest bidder. For a period of 1 year from the sale date, the property can be redeemed by the taxpayer. Kung hindi niya yun ma-redeemed with that grace period or with that period, then there will be a final deed of sale executed in favor of the buyer. On the rights of the owner naman, during the 1 year period of redemption, the owner shall not be deprived of the possession of the property sold and shall be entitled to the rents and other income thereof until the expiration of the time allowed for its redemption. So, that's the levy on real property. Now, let's proceed sa judicial proceedings. So, under judicial proceedings, we may either file a civil case for collection or file a criminal case. We also have compromise. So, compromise, it is the mutual settlement which can be entered by the BIR and the taxpayer. So, kahit na merong civil case na na-file sa court, pwede pa rin mag-compromise si BIR at si taxpayer. So, there is an offer to pay by the taxpayer and inaccept ni commissioner. So, that's compromise. Grounds for compromise, there is a reasonable doubt as to the validity of the claim against the taxpayer. There is financial inability of the taxpayer to pay. So, accordingly sa libro niyo, all criminal violations may be compromised except those already filed in court or those involving fraud. So, yun naman kapag criminal violations. Approval of the compromise. So, where the basic tax involved exceeds 1 million pesos or where the settlement offered is less than the prescribed minimum rates, then the compromise shall be subject to the approval of the National Evaluation Board. Yung National Evaluation Board natin is composed of the commissioner and the 4 deputy commissioners. So, kailangan i-approve ni NEB yung mga compromise in case na the basic tax involved exceeds 1 million pesos or where the settlement offered is less than the prescribed minimum rate. So, ano pala yung mga prescribed minimum rates? Amounts of compromise settlement. So, i-discuss natin yan sa next slide pa. Yung prescribed minimum rates. Yung amounts of compromise settlement, the compromise settlement of any tax liability shall be subject to the following minimum rates. A, for cases of financial incapacity, a minimum compromise rate equivalent to 10% of the basic assessed tax. B, for other cases, doubtful validity, a minimum compromise rate equivalent to 40% of the basic assessed tax. So, 10% kapag financial incapacity. Other cases naman, which is yung isang ground for compromise, yung number 1, there is a reasonable doubt as to the validity of the claim against the taxpayer. In that case, the minimum compromise rate is equivalent to 40% of the basic assessed tax. On the other hand, the compromise penalty to be imposed in lieu of a criminal violation not involving fraudulent acts shall strictly follow the amounts in the revised schedule of compromise penalties found in RMO number 7/2015. So, meron tayong schedule na binigay ng RMO number 7/2015. Ito yung mga amounts wherein it will be imposed instead of criminal violation. So, kung ayaw mong makulong, you can pay this certain compromise penalties. So, ito, schedule of compromise penalty relevant to income tax. So, these are the amounts, compromise penalty amounts that are relevant to income tax. So, for your additional information lang, you may pause this in case na gusto nyo pang i-screenshot or gusto nyo basahin muna. Okay, so yun yung para sa compromise. Let's now proceed sa abatement or cancellation of tax liability. So, in this case, gi-cancel yung tax. The commissioner has the authority to abate or cancel the surcharge, interest, and compromise penalties. The grounds for this is the tax or any portion thereof appears to be unjustly or excessively assessed. And number 2, the administration and collection costs involved do not justify the collection of the amount due. In that case, the commissioner can cancel the surcharge, interest, and compromise penalties. Suspension of running of statute of limitations. So when we say suspension of running of statute of limitations, ito yung pinag-usapan nating prescriptive period. So the running of the statute of limitations in the assessment and the beginning of distraint or levy or a proceeding in court for collection shall be suspended. So letter A, when the taxpayer requests for a reinvestigation which is granted by the commissioner. Letter B, when the taxpayer cannot be located in the address given by him in the return filed upon which a taxpayer is being assessed or collected. However, the running of the statute of limitations will not be suspended if the taxpayer informs the CIR of any change in address. So sa letter B, kung hindi natin malocate si taxpayer kasi wala siya dun sa address na binigay niya, then there is a suspension of running of statute of limitation. Pero, in case na na-inform si CIR na regarding the change in address ni taxpayer, then the statute of limitation will continue. Okay? Sa letter A, take note ang nakalagay is granted by the commissioner. So, nag-request ng reinvestigation si taxpayer and it is granted. So, hindi ibig sabihin dito na nag-request lang siya. Kailangan the request was granted by the commissioner. So, let's proceed sa letter C. When the warrant of distraint or levy is duly served upon the taxpayer, his authorized representative or a member of his household with sufficient discretion, and no property could be located. So, walang makitang property, kung walang property na makita, so wala tayong ma-seize. Well, di ba, distraint is the seizure of personal property, or levy naman, seizure of real property. So, kung wala tayong property na malocate, makita, then wala lang ding silbi. Kaya, there will be a suspension of running of statute of limitation. And letter D, when the taxpayer is out of the country or out of the Philippines. Note that the suspension shall be for the duration of the situation plus 60 days thereafter. So, for example, ngayong, let's say on January 1, lumabas ng Pilipinas si taxpayer. So, plus 60 days thereafter. Yun yung magiging suspension ng running of statute of limitation natin. Okay? So, next, let's proceed sa civil penalties. So, with regards to the civil penalties, these are in addition to the basic tax assessed on the taxpayer. So, aside from the basic tax ni payer na hindi niya nabayaran, merong idadagdag na mga bayad, which is surcharge and yung interest, plus actually yung compromise penalty. Yung sinabi nating in lieu of imprisonment, then it will also be added. So, kasali din yun sa civil penalties. Surcharge, interest, and compromise penalty. With regards to the surcharge, it's either 25% or 50%. So, yan ay isang, surcharge is a civil penalty. Okay, it is imposed in addition to the main tax, the basic tax required to be paid. So, surcharge pwedeng 25% or 50%. Yung 25%, actually, mas madaling ma-memorize yung 50%. So, other than 50%, yun yung magiging 25%. So, anyways, let's read the 25% surcharge. Kapag hindi naka-file ng return and hindi rin nakabayad ng tax as required. Unless otherwise authorized by the Commissioner, filing a return with an internal revenue officer other than those with whom the return is required to be filed. So, hindi siya naka-file sa tamang internal revenue officer. Failure to pay the deficiency tax within the time prescribed for its payment in the notice of assessment. Hindi siya nakabayad ng deficiency tax. And failure to pay the full or part of the amount of tax shown on any return required to be filed under the provisions of the tax code or rules and regulations, or the full amount of tax due for which no return is required to be filed. So, hindi siya nakabayad ng tax or hindi siya failure to pay the full or part of the amount of tax or the full amount of tax due kung wala siyang na-file na return on or before the date prescribed for its payment. So, 25% surcharge yan. Magiging 50% surcharge naman in case of willful neglect to file the return within the period prescribed by the code. What do we mean by willful neglect? Willful neglect if the taxpayer knowingly delays the filing of the tax return. Ang sabi nila dito is kapag meron ng assessment of like PAN, meron ng ganon, or LOA, meron ng LOA, still, nag-delay pa rin siya sa pag-file ng tax return, ang assumption dyan is 50% surcharge siya. Letter B, in case a false or fraudulent return is willfully made. So, gumawa talaga siya ng false or fraudulent return. So, this is mentioned last few slides ago. And letter C, in case a person who is not VAT registered issues an invoice or receipts showing his TIN followed by the word VAT. So, hindi siya VAT registered, pero nagkamali siya, nalagyan niya ng VAT yung kanyang TIN. So, in that case, merong 50% surcharge. Note in the case the taxpayer without notice, nag-voluntary file siya ng return. So, na-late siya mag-file, pero wala pang na-receive na notice. In that case, 25% shall be imposed for late filing and late payment. So, kasi magiging 50% yan kapag meron na tayong notice. Kasi ang assumption, yun nga kanina, na kapag may notice na, then ang assumption dyan, there is already a willful neglect if the taxpayer knowingly delays the filing of the tax return. So, kapag may notice na, ang assumption dyan, willful neglect na. Kasi the taxpayer, alam na niya na na-delay siya, pero still delayed pa rin siya sa filing niya ng tax return. Interest. So the next is interest. An increment on any unpaid amount of tax assessed from the date prescribed for payment until the amount is fully paid. So yan yung nakalagay din sa libro nyo. Currently, we are using 12% per year. So i-allocate natin yan. Hindi yan totally per year. So depende yan sa months. 12% per year. Kinds of interest, it's either deficiency interest or delinquency interest. Kapag deficiency interest, interest imposed on any deficiency tax due, which interest shall be assessed and collected from the date prescribed for its payment until either full payment thereof or issuance of notice, whichever comes first between these two. So, yan yung deficiency interest para sa mga deficiency tax. Delinquency interest naman in case of failure to pay ng tax. Okay? Hindi siya nakabayad ng tax, whether there is a return required to be filed or walang return na kailangan i-file. So, in either of those cases, kung hindi siya nakabayad ng tax, there is a delinquency interest on the unpaid amount of tax. And meron din tayong a deficiency tax, letter C. A deficiency tax or any surcharge or interest thereon. So, kung hindi tayo nakabayad ng deficiency tax or any surcharge or interest thereon, on the due date appearing in the notice and demand of the commissioner, there shall be assessed and collected on the unpaid amount interest at 12% per annum or such higher rate as may be prescribed by rules and regulations until the amount is fully paid. We also have other penalties for failure to file an information, return, statement list, or any required attachment, 1,000 pesos for each such failure. So every failure to file, then 1,000 pesos. The aggregate amount to be imposed for all such failures during a calendar year shall not exceed 25,000 pesos. So not more than 25,000 pesos naman. For failure of a withholding agent to collect and remit the tax. So in case na hindi nakakollect and hindi niya na-remit yung tax ni si withholding agent, hindi nakakollect, hindi nakaremit, then there is a penalty in the amount equal to the total amount of the tax not withheld. For failure of a withholding agent to refund excess withholding tax. Any employer or withholding agent who fails or refuses to refund excess withholding tax shall be liable to a penalty equal to the total amount of refunds which was not refunded. So, yan yung mga other penalties natin. So, format of computation for total tax payable. Tax payable, i-add natin yung surcharge natin, yung mga interest natin and compromise penalty. That will be the total amount payable. Itong tax payable natin, yan yung hindi nabayarang tax. Surcharge, 25 or 50% of the basic tax. Interest naman, 12% per year on the unpaid tax. Compromise penalty, there is a schedule for that. In lieu of imprisonment. Kung ayaw mo makulong, magbayad ka ng compromise penalty. So, that will be the total amount payable. So, that ends our discussion for the remedies, chapter 14.